Welcome to Lost Ark First Impressions. I wasn't planning on playing this game, but I came across something that reminded me of it, so I jumped in. I purchased a Founders Pack for early access and I went in completely blind. That's right, I had no idea what to expect, and I had no idea what I was doing. So I sat on the character select screen for a while, and decided ultimately to go with a warrior to access the Berserker Advanced class. And this is where the first impressions begin, with something that I think is a huge detriment. Character names are unique, and people have been reserving them now for days. I tried a lot of my usual names, even backup names, and found most of them already taken. Through a Google search, I found something that's super relevant here. Once created, these names are gone. If you delete that character, it doesn't free up the name. Amazon has to clear up their global database before unused names are released. And if you're like me, name reservations in previous games have gone one way. Create a random character with the name you want and delete it later to free up the name for the character you intend to use it for. That can't happen here, and I'd be surprised if a decent amount of viable names haven't already fallen victim to this. I don't understand why the NAEU release of this game could not have been updated to use hashtag identifiers behind names so people could use whichever name they please. But naming issue aside, the character creator was reasonable and has numerous options for your enjoyment. I was surprised when I got into the game to find that the advanced classes are chosen right away. You'd think these would be unlocked after hours in the game, but no, they're available right from the start. And I'm not sure how I feel about this. On one hand, it gives immediate access to something you might otherwise have had to wade through hours of in-game time to play. But on the other hand, it doesn't allow for any experience with the base class prior to deciding which advanced class to play. However, there are trials of each advanced class available, so you can experience them firsthand before deciding which way to go. And I think it's great that that exists. This is also where I noticed the first similarity with another Korean MMO, Black Desert Online, in that these advanced classes have graphics which detail where they perform in terms of attack power, dexterity, defense, support, and AoE radius. Once I got in-game, I was surprised with the graphics, and not in a good way. I understand that this game has been out for years in other regions. It launched originally on December 4th, 2019. So of course it's not cutting edge in the graphics department. But it isn't that old in the grand scheme of things. During normal gameplay, I didn't mind or notice it that much. The graphics didn't really bother me a ton. It's during cutscenes where it's noticeable that this game could have been improved a lot. I ran this on maximum settings and it looks like something that I think could have been released in 2012 alongside Diablo 3. I think it would have been awesome if the NAEU release had revamped graphics, but here we are. At the end of the day, I guess it's not that bad. It's a fine game appearance-wise, it's just noticeable. But hey, I suppose it does mean that this will run on a lot of systems that it otherwise wouldn't have if the graphics had been better. As far as gameplay is concerned, I was pleasantly surprised here. I have 21 hours into Lost Ark over the past 2 days, and it's been a lot of fun to go through. I've played isometric games before, starting with Diablo 2 during its original release because I'm old, and I've also played a lot of MMOs, starting with Dark Age of Camelot, but I hadn't played an isometric MMO. That was a new experience. At first, I wasn't sure it'd be great, but it's not bad. I think it provides a nice change of pace to the usual MMO third-person fare, and presents with some interesting combat opportunities. Although rare, there are even some perspective shifts in certain areas which reminded me a bit of Nier Automata. I don't think it's fair for me to comment on the story here because I haven't completed it. I'm not sure how far through it I am, but I'm currently level 35 out of 50 total. Assuming the story runs the gamut of the leveling process, so I still have a ways to go. I do think it's fair though to say that there hasn't been anything significantly deep to this point, story-wise. But what has happened has at least been enough to catch my attention through the various cutscenes and dialogue scenes. This is where I noticed another similarity to Black Desert Online. When you're speaking with NPCs, the scene changes a bit, the perspective shifts, zooms in a bit, and a horizontal menu across the bottom appears. That said, I don't think it's particularly notable aside from the fact that it reminded me of BDO. Of course, there are microtransactions in this game. Present in the shop are items of the usual MMO fare, cosmetics such as mounts or skins, timed bonuses to character stats which amount essentially to optional subscriptions, and more. It doesn't seem that there are any significant pay-to-win elements here though, and that's important to note. Of course, it doesn't mean that pay-to-win elements won't show up later, but at present, all I've really noticed advantage-wise are people who have a double jump on their $100 Platinum Package mount, and I'm not even sure that's really an advantage. When jumps are required in-game, the mount desummons and needs to be summoned again. That's actually been somewhat irritating because it makes no sense. My mount can jump all at once on normal ground, but as soon as a small river crossing appears, it can't handle it and poof. On a similar note, it doesn't seem like combat skills desummon the mount, which is also irritating. When I'm running into a pack of mobs, I'd like to be able to use my opening offensive skill from the mount, meaning the mount desummons and I get to combat. But that's not how it is here. I have to press a button to desummon the mount, then get into combat, and that's not ideal to me. With 21 hours into the game thus far, I feel like there are areas where I've just scratched the surface of the game. It was just yesterday when I got a stronghold, which seems to have a lot of options for craft and small missions to send NPCs out on, but I haven't gone past the initial lab research stages, so I'm not sure how deep these mechanics go. As far as first impressions are concerned, it does seem like there's quite a bit here, but it's too premature in my playthrough for me to comment further than that. I've come across quite a few dungeons and one world boss fight, all of which had ample people playing. I haven't had any issues matchmaking for dungeons, and the world boss fight was advertised in chat by someone, so I found it when I otherwise wouldn't have. With the influx of new players that I'm anticipating from the free-to-play release, I don't think anyone will have any problems finding people to play through these components with. That said, I think it's too early at this point to tell how servers will be in the coming months. I anticipate a lot of people playing this game, but I could be wrong. That said, I did solo one dungeon on hard, so it can be done, but I'm not sure if that applies to endgame dungeons since I'm still in the mid-game. Something that's crucial to note here is that the typical MMO team composition, which includes a tank, a healer, and multiple DPSs, isn't really a thing in Lost Ark. There is a tanky class, and there are a couple characters that can heal, the Bard for example, but all the dungeons I've completed thus far have just been a team of varying DPS units. I'm not sure if this is true for endgame dungeons or if those might require tankier and healing classes, but at least for the portion of the game I've experienced, it's not required. All in all, I think Lost Ark is a lot of fun. It's dated in the graphics department, and there are some voiceovers which aren't great. If you pay attention, you'll also notice subtitles that are different from what's actually being said. But the gameplay is a lot of fun, and I think that makes up for the shortcomings that this game has in other areas. I'm going to be playing it for the foreseeable future, and I hope to see a lot of you enjoying this game and keeping it alive for a long time to come. I was planning on ending the video there, but I went to log on to play earlier today, and I couldn't help but notice this. The game is not available, so it was supposed to launch, I believe, at noon Eastern Time. And it's almost 3 o'clock now, and the game isn't up. So I went to the Steam forums to see if anybody knew what was happening, and I came across a pinned post from the developers saying that they had some unexpected problems with deployment, and they were hoping to have it fixed in a couple of hours. And I don't know, guys, I can't help but feel like this is a bit of a red flag. I mean, I don't know what these problems with their deployment are. I know they're putting out a bunch of new servers today, but this just seems like something that they should have planned for, you know? You're going to have a game launching, you better have all hands on deck ready to do whatever you need to do. And I could get it starting 15, 30 minutes late, but almost 3 hours and Amazon still doesn't have a solution to this? I don't know, guys. This is a red flag. I think it's a red flag. I could be wrong, but I think it's a red flag. See you later.